Hi everyone, welcome to Awake TV. So today we're going to talk about meeting people at where they are. I think this is a great topic. While we are providing service to others, no matter what we are doing, we tend to look at what people need by our perspective, but sometimes it's different. So me and Sue both experienced this in personal life, and then we thought this is a good topic to share. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I have this client who, and as I've told people in the past, I am a quantum healer and I do QHHT and BQH, beyond quantum healing and quantum healing hypnosis technique. And so normally when someone comes to me for a session, it has to do with hypnosis. Okay. But I also offer other services. I do spiritual counseling. I was a counselor for a lot of years as a social worker, and I do dream interpretation and energy work. Okay. In a nutshell. So I have this client who, it's becoming clear, but it's only taken me what, 8 months, Erica, to figure out that
Yeah.
he doesn't necessarily want hypnosis. Or maybe there's a fear there. I don't know. There could be a lot of reasons why someone is not ready for hypnosis. And so it was actually my husband today, and he knows this person. They are going to do business together, so it's a different relationship, but we're all friends anyway. Who said to me, "Well, maybe the reason he talks about multiple sessions is because he would rather do some counseling. There's a lot that you have to offer him there." And I mean, the last time I talked to him just as a friend, it was 4 hours. So and it was all about relationships and things like that. So it wasn't really filtering in my brain because I had this impression in my mind that I had to get him under hypnosis so he could heal. He's got a lot of physical problems. And it was my idea that, well, this is how our work together should go because I want to see him healed, and I was seeing him through my lens of what I want for him. And, this is a good reminder for me that any practitioner, or even if you're just being a friend to somebody, we have to keep in mind that what we want for them is not necessarily what they need or what they want. And also, we have to pay attention to the signs of what they're ready for. Okay. Just because we think maybe they're ready for this particular type of treatment or information or advice, maybe they're not ready for it yet. And so that's for me, my lesson recently. And it's an age old therapy concept, which is meeting the person where they are. So in other words, if this person comes to me and tells me, I don't want to talk about my childhood, I don't want to talk about what happened or the abuse or whatever it is, a lot of therapists have in their mind that, well, we got to get to that, which is the basis of whatever else is going on in their life or where their difficulties lie. But if they tell me I don't want to talk about that, then I have to respect that and say, okay, let's meet them right now where they are. What are the issues going on in your life? And help people find steps to work through that and right exactly where they are, because the past has a lot to do with any dysfunction that we have going on in our lives. It does. It comes from somewhere, right? Whether it's a past lifetime or it's your past as your younger years. It really, really has an effect on what our current circumstances are. However, if we're not ready to deal with that yet, and we meet somebody where they are and help them with the basics of listening and seeing what it is why things keep repeating in their lives or why they struggle in certain areas, help them to see it themselves by being the listener, by being the mirror, right? Saying things back to them that you hear and that sort of thing. It helps them to understand where they are and what they want to change. Okay. And then that turns their personal power on because they feel more able to move forward in a way that works for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so even out of the counseling and helping and therapy and energetic healing arenas, if you're a person who doesn't offer any of those services but you really want to be a friend to somebody, that's something to keep in mind also, because a lot of times really what a person wants to do is just come and talk to you and let it out and just hear it in their own voice so that they can be very clear on what's going on with them. And we do them a huge favor by what holding a space means is I'm going to sit and listen to you. I'm going to give you this gift from me, which is me listening to you, active listening, not just passive. Oh, yeah, like really listening and hearing. And then if the person says, well, what do you think? Or I'm not sure what to do with this. What's your opinion? Then they're extending the invitation to give for us who have been holding the space and actively listening to go ahead and then say, well, if it was me, I might think about this, or I might consider that, or have you considered this or that, right? You can suggest by asking a question. And because then they're still in the power seat where they can go, well, yeah, I have considered that, but I haven't done that for these reasons, right? So they're still doing their narrative, they're in their personal power, and you're allowing them to use you as a sounding board to figure it out for themselves.
Yeah, that's what I use for conversational hypnosis during my coaching session. And then um, actually, the technique you have to go through in order for them to have a clarity while talking, to me. But that is a great method. And often, unless the person is extremely codependent on something, they feel much better if they can figure it out by themselves while we are providing whatever the service we can. You know what I mean? Have you ever experienced that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had a fella from Texas who I did everything I could to hypnotize him, and then he tells me afterwards that, well, I can't be hypnotized. He wasn't there to be hypnotized. He was there to have a friend listen and remind him of certain things. I don't want to say too much because this it wasn't a client, it was a friend, but at the same time I tried so hard to hypnotize him, and then he ends up telling me I didn't. Dolores Cannon came into my mind and said, "You're assuming he's here to be hypnotized." And I had to laugh at myself because I said in my mind, "Yes, I did. Thank you." And then I brought him out of hypnosis, or the semi state of hypnosis that he was in. And then we just talked, for about 4 more hours. So, we have to listen and really hear what a person's asking for. And that's not always easy. So, I mean, the other thing is, if a person says to you, I want this session, it might be a good idea to ask them, okay, so tell me what you know about this particular type of therapy and what are your expectations? See what they say.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you ask somebody a question rather than making a statement, how much they're willing to tell you what they really think about something or what they really believe or what their fears are.
Definitely. I just had a diagnostic call with a client, and then she wanted to have a clarity on your twin flame situation. So usually when I do my coaching and everything, all my clients said, oh my God, like, oh, this program was my program. It's so like providing so much clarity. And then my twin flame regression is one of the reason why they got absolute clarity. So I was kind of assuming that she might want it. I wasn't pushing for it, but she kind of ended up after the talk like, oh, I just want a Akashic record reading, which to me, after I was going through a bunch of clients, that's not enough clarity by looking at a bunch of people and what they're going through, but that's what she wanted. So I was like, okay, let's do that. But the point is, some people want certain things, not just because from our professional point of view, method A is like, let's say my twin flame regulation is the most effective one to get absolute clarity. And then person one, Akashic record session, which is lesser degree, And then like, as far as it comes to you are experiencing the actual past life with your twin, with your experience, or getting the some kind of a soul contract information through third party, which is me,
Mhm.
the feeling of getting the realistic information, you are feeling it, you are experiencing it, you are like there to seeing each scene of past life. To me, that's what I want, and majority of my client wants, right? But like you say, you can't really assume, this is the best way and you should do that. I never push, but the point is like that is exactly like meeting the people where they're at, and then you guys do provide whatever the service. It can be spiritual service, whatever the service you provide on your job, right? And it is very important to one, observe them, and two, like Sue said, listen to them, and then don't push too much. Like even like for the people who are sales profession, I realize someone who is top salesperson, they're a good listener, not someone who is aggressively selling, selling, selling.
Yeah.
You know?
I've noticed that a lot in like movies and uh, series, that you can get on Netflix or whatever. That seems to be a theme that's coming out now, where people, especially family members, they have these ideas that they keep pushing on the individual because they think that's what's best for them. And then the
Oh
individual
yeah.
stands up for themselves and says, no, I know what's best for me and I'm doing it this way. And like it or lump it sort of dynamic, which, and, in the shows, usually the family member comes around and goes, well, okay, I'm going to respect what you're choosing. And
It's a really
ev-
good family member if they can admit, like instead of saying, "Oh, you're gonna fail."
exactly,
By the
yeah.
way, that's my mom's response.
Uh,
If I go
yeah.
against like what she thinks the best for my life, right? So those of you might have that kind of situation, right? Could be in marriage, could be with your parents, but after you carefully consider what you want to do in your relationship or your career or whatever that is, you know what you want in deep down. And then you keep on doing somebody else want you to do, that's living by their expectation. And
Hmm.
then when time to I I don't know, I don't really think we'll die after we move to 5D, but let's put it more real example of that. So when you comes to the time of dying and then going through your life, and you don't want to regret that you lived your life by somebody else's direction and somebody else's expectation, and you
Yeah.
fulfill somebody else's dream instead of your own.
Right, right. I think that's a universal theme that with the shift and people ascending, and which to me just means remembering who we are. As we remember more and more, we start to realize that oh yeah, this thing we call the matrix, which to me is really just an agreed upon reality,
Yeah.
um, had all these suppositions, all these rules, all these, well, this is, and it was kind of applied for everybody. And there was even a time in human history where um, people that were born with mental, I hate the word disabilities, but mental challenges, that weren't able to go to school, finish school, um, get a job and get married, and then have 2.5 kids. They were society's problem, and people in society were trying to get rid of them. The whole eugenics and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So it was very much an agreed upon thing that humanity was being taught, chose to go through, so that we could explore separation, and then eventually we could realize that not every formula fits every person. So then we are waking up to individuality, and learning to go in our heart space and find what drives us, what we're interested in, what we want to be, and how we want to live our lives. So that's the ascension is the remembering. And so now that we're remembering that we each have the power to create our lives in reality the way we want it to be, um, we have to set some boundaries. And that includes with practitioners, like you and me, Erica. I mean, if I'm not hearing somebody when they come in, or I make an assumption about something, I have to check myself and go, wait a minute, this may not be exactly what this person is wanting. So maybe I need to talk to them a little bit more. Like you said, you do, you explore with them. What are you really here for? Yes, the twin flame course attracted you to my work, but what is it you're really wanting? And you picked up on that very quickly, and that's great. So for me, it was just a reminder, and sometimes my personal preference for what I do comes into play. So that's what I'm learning, because I really love doing the quantum healing sessions, and I would prefer to do um, a hypnosis session with people, because it's just to me, it's very exciting. I did a lot of years of counseling, and counseling can be quite energy intensive, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
so I don't always have a lot of patience with that anymore, because I'm busy in my own life, right? I'm busy creating my own reality. But if that's what a particular client needs, and you know, I'm not going to sign up for years and years of therapy, because I quit that a long time ago. But if I can do a couple of therapy sessions with somebody, and then eventually they're ready to do maybe some hypnosis, then good. Or maybe they only want one session, a therapy session, and then they're good to go. They're back in their own power, and they're moving forward. So for me, I'm just admitting that I do have my preferences. And
Yeah.
so we have to kind of, especially practitioners, but also as friends and family members, we have to meet people's, if they're coming to us and we truly want to help, and we really want to hold space for them, we have to listen very closely to what it is they really want, and what they're hoping for from us. There also comes a time where if somebody wants something that we're not able or willing to provide for them, that we have to be honest about that, and well, this is not the service that I provide. Or if it's a friend, you have to set boundaries and say, I have this amount of time I can devote to this, and then I've got other things on my plate, so we have to set our boundaries too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So those of you who are parents, I do recommend you guys to read a book of Jim Rogers. I don't particularly remember the title right now because I blanked out, but he wrote a book about for my children or something like that. And then it's a good parenting book. And I do agree on his parenting book 100%. Like he's the first person who is aligned by how to raise kids the way I see it, and 100% like same vibe. So like, I'm not parents yet, but whole point is when you have a kid, you do have expectations, you do have emotions, how you want to direct your kids toward a certain kind of direction. You might want to, because you don't want your kids to get harm, or meet difficulties or challenges or whatever the reason, right? But to me, that's not always helpful, because even though the parents are not intentionally try to manipulate the kids or directing kids the way they think they should go to, but like, kids are individual. Yeah, it's between you and your husband, but they are not your dog or they are not your cat. They are individual human being. You got gift from the creator to raise them at a certain age, but they have their individual want, individual thought, individual wishes, individual life purpose to begin with. So it is very important to see them as separate human being, not extension of you, or too much emotion toward it, because sometimes it can be very harmful. Because I do
Mm,
talk to clients, some of them decided to get that whatever the job they are doing, and they're considering to change their job, what they really want to do, but that was something they are expected to do,
yeah, that's
you know.
great points. I just looked it up. I see under Jim Rogers, two books in particular, Raising Good Humans,
No, not that
and
one.
the other one by Jim Rogers is A Gift to My Children.
Yeah, that one. Give to
That's
my
a good
children.
one.
That's
Yeah,
a good
and he's
one.
got a couple other, well, Stop Yelling, Love Me More, Please, Mom. Oh no, that's a different person. Sorry. Sorry. I was
Yeah.
thinking that title was odd. Anyway,
Yeah,
excellent
Give to
points.
My Children. That's a great book, because
Yeah.
he's a great dad. And then I feel like the way we can emulate as much as how he raised his kid, you can be a great parent. All we want is their happiness. And then I think kids can be happy when they discover what they really want to do.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
it's not by us telling them, oh, you have to go to this school and you have to be friends with these people and then you have to get this job because our family is like lawyer for years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unless kids want to be.
Or we're all military men, so you have to be a military man too, that sort of thing. And I think the reason people project onto their children those kind of things is because they're trying to live their lives through them. Maybe there's some deficiency that they perceive in their own life. Oh, they wish they had done this or that. Or
Yeah.
they're so happy with what they've done, they just assume that their kid wants to do it too. And, like you said, Erica, we have to respect each child as a separate soul that has a soul plan and a mission for this life. And they have wants and dreams just like we do too. And it may have nothing to do with what our wants and dreams are. I mean, I used
Yeah.
to see it when I was coaching all the time as a baseball coach. You know, I don't want to say just fathers. It was, the intensity usually came from the fathers, but some of the mothers were just as intense. It's like they would just, and they would do it in a different way, right? But they would be so cutthroat about their kids, competitive and cutthroat, putting other kids down, um, putting thoughts in their kids' minds about the other kids and how to win all the time and everything. And it's because they wanted their kid to be eventually get a baseball scholarship or be a pro or whatever. I mean, do you know the statistical possibility of anybody in your high school or all those growing up years becoming a professional anything? It's like very,
Less
very,
than 1%, right?
very small chance. And for us to push that onto our kids. Now, there is such a thing as when they express an interest in something, like if they want to take up the cello or they're going to study science or they're going, whatever it happens, or sports of some kind, um, being enthusiastic with them about that choice, and being supportive of them. But then if we turn it into our dream instead of theirs, that's crossing the line.
Yeah, and also like, when you are not comfortable with certain ethnicity for your kids to go out with or marry to, that's like you are crossing boundaries. If your kids want to go out with certain kind of people from certain kind of race or religion, let them go through with that because that's not your life. It's okay if you're not comfortable with it personally, but your kids are more open. Your kids want to be friendly with all sort of different kind of people, want to have a family with all sort of different kind of people. That's fine. We are like shifting to 5D, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking of this one family that we're friends with, and I remember when the daughter went through this stage of wanting to be like gothic, I guess they goth, I think they
Mhm.
call it. You know,
Yeah.
all the dark clothes, black hair, piercings, moody. And I was talking with a mom and at one point, and so I don't know what's going on. She was never interested in this stuff. Oh, and I said, well, maybe there's absolutely nothing wrong. It's just that she needs to know that you're willing to allow her to express that part of herself. And, once she does, maybe she'll decide, okay, I've had enough of that and I'll go back, or maybe that's just who she is, that's how her personality is. So anyway, long story short, she did that for maybe a year and a half around there. And then
Mhm.
she just went back to being like she was before, and much to her parents' relief. Although, there's a lesson in that too. It's like if your children, shift themselves because they figured out what their identity is in this moment point, um, it's not up to us to decide if it's forever or if it's just for this moment point or this series of moment points. It's really up to them.
Yeah.
So I know my friend was relieved when she stopped doing the goth thing, but on the other hand, I think she also figured out that it wasn't so bad when she was going through the goth thing because, when the girl realized that her mother was accepting of her one way or the other, her personality changed,
Yeah.
in the sense that she was able to relax and just be her happy self. Didn't matter what she was wearing on the outside or what she was projecting to the rest of the world. She didn't have to have the attitude anymore because she was being accepted.
Yeah. So any last tip for our viewers to do this?
My biggest tip is just, when you're talking or working with or providing services with anybody, just remember the level of freedom that you wish you always had as a child or that you remember having had. Maybe you come from a background where your parents were super supportive of whatever your choices were and you enjoyed that freedom, just keep that in mind. Or if you were a kid that wasn't allowed to make your own choices, imagine what you would have appreciated and then be that for the other person, right?
Yeah, that's a
Be
great point.
be free, with allow them to be free and, guide us. Let them guide you, let them guide us where we can be of assistance. Um,
Yeah.
and if they're asking for something that you can't do or you just don't have the time, the amount of time that they're asking for and all that kind of stuff, you have to be honest about that and say, I'm willing to commit this amount of time, or we can meet every week at, on Tuesday at 7 o'clock,
Mhm.
whatever works for your schedule. But, don't overcommit yourself if what they want is something you can't offer. But on the other hand, it's up to these folks that are coming to us for assistance to set the pace and to let you know where they are. And if you need to ask more questions to get clarity, on how to help them, then do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So my tip is to look at them as an individual, no matter who they are. Closer your relationship with to the person, often people project, but remember they are not you, right? So especially when you come from not a freedom background, you understand how much you cherish individuality. So individuality equal freedom, and if you give freedom to you, people you love, what's gonna happen is you're gonna end up having close relationship. If you dictate that person's life, you're not going to share too much about their lives. Right? No one want to get dominated and controlled and dictated. So that's including your kids, including your husband, wife, your family member, whoever you're dealing with, right? Okay, so next week, Sue and I are gonna bring a more interesting topic. Thank you so much for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, and we see you next time. Bye.
Bye.